Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go to the Kursk oblast because the evaluation of the situation changes almost every day. So today Russia took initiative and they've also started to push the Ukrainian army from the northern side. So let me show you the timeline. It was yesterday and it is today. Definitely a dramatic change, and after all I must say that the Institute of the Study of War, their military map, is more or less correct with the situation we see on the current day. Well, that amber area is actually a gray zone where the fighting is ongoing and no one would tell you who controls the territory. Everything is boiling, everything changes from one side to another almost every day. So yesterday Ukrainian army was successful pushing the Russian army out of the part from Novoivanovka village, which was occupied before, but today we see that Russians moved over here, taking this part of the village. Actually, they created a huge risk for the Ukrainian armed forces in this side. Because this kind of the narrow bottleneck, 2.85 kilometers, roughly 1.9 miles, something like that. And the roads are being cut. This road is in a gray zone, so Ukraine is unable to use it for the supplies, as well as this one. Plus there could be also some obstacles like this lake, could be some of the small rivers, so for Ukraine it's getting hard to supply the group in this place. That's why, guys, I have to say that Ukraine absolutely should withdraw the forces from this side, and maybe, as I told you around 3 days ago, from all of this side entirely. From my own perspective, if Ukraine wants to secure the gained territory of the Kursk oblast, Ukraine should defend Sudzha and all of the nearby settlements near to it, because it's quite a good place for defense. Well, first of all, the settlements play the role of the defense lines, and the second reason that there is a Russian defense line not far away from Sudzha, so Ukraine may also use this one for defense. Also, you have some of the war obstacles like this river and lots of the supply roads. So why the situation changed not in favor of Ukraine? Well, I check out the Ukrainian army resources and our officers who have their own Telegram channels or the accounts on the X platform, and they say that the weather deteriorated dramatically in the Kursk region, so it's getting kind of hard to send supplies or the reinforcements across the field roads, so you need to have the robust roads with the pavement. But this main crossroad, the hub in Novoivanovka, is in a gray zone already, so Ukraine cannot use the roads for their supplies in this entire area, I would say. Then Russia started their offensive from the west. I already told you that this crossroad is very important, so if Ukraine loses it, it's better to get out from the place. That's what I think will be done by Ukraine, and also I say to you that the winter time for the Kursk oblast will be crucial because the weather plays a great role in the defense operations as well as in offense operations. And actually, during the winter time you need more supplies for your army men, for your army basically. For Ukraine it was impossible to build the defense lines of the Kursk region, and I think that Ukraine thought to go further and further. That's why the only defense possible is using the Russian-built Surovikin line. Yeah, guys, I understand that those news are not that great right from the start of the video, but we have what we have. It's the real picture. I'm reviewing the front lines every day, and I have to say to you the details of what is happening. Now Russia took initiative in the Kursk region. They took initiative also on the eastern side of Ukraine. But I'm sure that there will be the positive days for Ukraine as well. And now let's go to the other news. Guess we also have some terrible news. The drone video was shown on the internet. It is available on the X platform and also it's around Telegram. It shows the war crimes of the Russian soldiers who basically zeroed the Ukrainian soldiers. It happened between the village of Novoivanovka and Nizhny Klin, somewhere here. Deep State already identified the location. So there were several of the Ukrainian guys and definitely they were unalived by the Russian side. Guys, I'm reviewing this war for a long time, and recently for the last 1 month or maybe 2 of the months, I see the boost in those war crimes from the Russian side. They did like that in Vuhledar direction, also in Pokrovsk, and now in the Kursk region. This is the update from the Miko 73. As you can see, definitely Ukrainian army is under the great threat in this place. Olgivka village. The idea for Ukraine was to get Kornevo under control, but now there is a great risk for Ukrainian side to lose absolutely everything in the northern side of the Kursk front lines. Guys, and definitely I monitor lots of the sources in internet, and I must say that the situation for Ukrainian army in Kursk, for now, it is not really good. Yesterday it was the counterattack of the Ukrainian side, the Russian convoy was eliminated, but at the same time Ukraine also has losses, as you may see on one of those pictures. Mainly Ukraine has losses in those MRAPs, but usually those vehicles work quite well defending the crew. And Russians usually do not have those kind of the MRAPs, they use the simple trucks for that purpose with just a light armor. That's why they lose many more troops compared to the Ukrainian side. And according to the NOAF reports, not far away from Martinovka village, it's the Kursk region, Ukraine even gained some certain ground. So we also have some positive news for today from the Kursk region. Well, actually, I'm kind of surprised that at the same time that Ukraine has to retreat from the other part of the Kursk region, Ukraine has the successful offensive operations on the other side. Well, I don't know whether those news are positive or negative, but there will be no Ramstein meeting in a close-by perspective. Well, first of all, because of the hurricane in the United States, Joe Biden canceled his visit to Ramstein, and the meeting itself would not have any sense without Joe Biden or without high representatives from the United States of America, so it was canceled. Nevertheless, Joe Biden is going to Germany and he will meet with Chancellor Scholz, and kind of the strange news appeared today about the decision of Germany not to supply heavy equipment to Ukraine any longer. So there was the meeting between Zelensky and Scholz recently, and the Bild source shared the information that Germany stops all of the main support of Ukraine using the heavy equipment, like Panzerhaubitze 2000, Leopard 2 tanks, whatever. But actually those are not the new news. Several months ago, Germany already announced that it will stop the military support of Ukraine with heavy equipment. But it doesn't mean that Ukraine wouldn't receive Panzerhaubitze or German tanks. No, Ukraine signed kind of the big contracts already with Germany, and it will continue to receive what it needs. Just the future contracts will be postponed, probably because there will be elections in Germany the next year. And it will be up to the new chancellor to decide the new level of the Ukrainian support. So it is not that dramatic as, for example, the Bild source tries to say. If you are my follower on a Telegram group, you might remember that I shared those news on the channel long time ago. The Ramstein meeting could be a decisive one for Ukraine, but it was postponed for the uncertain time, so probably only after elections it will be conducted with a new president of the United States. My friends, if you like the job that I do daily on YouTube, you may also support me on Patreon. The link for my Patreon page I will put just in the video description below. So thank you for supporting my motivation that YouTube cancels monetization. Ukraine continued to use the Dragon drones, which completely burned the Russian positions. Well, usually they do not cause severe damage, but Russian soldiers just unable to locate in those trenches built in the forest lines. Because of the smoke, because of the temperature, they usually leave and run fast. And after it, the job is finished by Ukrainian FPV drones, which chase the Russian infantry. Sometimes not even the infantry, but the China-made Russian golf carts. Now Russians are trying to modify their China golf carts to make them less visible. They put this kind of the autumn camouflage. Well, maybe it could help really because it's kind of hard to detect the vehicle, especially from above, but if this target is moving, obviously you'll find it out. Also, Russia continued to send their motorcycles, sometimes even with the sidecars. Guys, again, I have to censor everything, so I showed those red dots, and those are the Russian motorcyclists, but the video is available as usual on my Telegram. There's actually tons of the videos start to appear in internet of how Ukraine just demolished the Russian convoys, but the problem is that for Russia it doesn't really matter at this stage. They're willing to send more and more reinforcements. They don't care about their losses. Alright, the eastern side of Ukraine, there Russia propelled just a little today in Turkina, but the vector direction, for me, well, it's kind of concerning. You see, now the goal for the Russian army is to encircle the Ukrainian group in all of this entire area. We can see their intentions judging on the military map. They create this pocket for the Ukrainian army, and all of those settlements potentially could be occupied, or as I say to you, even encircled from both of the sides. Well, for the southern side, it's kind of difficult for the Russian army army because they have to cross the river. Also, it's difficult terrain in this place. But from the north, after they occupied Turkina village, they advanced towards south. And I warned about it like 2 weeks or even 3 weeks ago. So yesterday, today, we see two vectors of the Russian attacks. One of the vectors goes straight to the south. So how many forces does Ukraine have in this area? It's yet unknown. It could be even thousands, hundreds for sure of the troops, but could be up to thousands because those settlements are quite big. And Ukraine has already started to withdraw the forces from the lower ground, from those fields. We have the information about it, and little by little Russia moves in this place. Russia is actually performing kind of the risky maneuver, so here potentially Ukraine could have cut this Russian attack vector, but probably Ukraine doesn't have enough resources for those kind of the operations. You see, this is a very thin assault vector from the Russian side. The concerned situation is also happening in the Chasiv Yar. Ukrainian defenders repelled the Chasiv Yar for a very, very long time, but it seems like Russia was capable to cross the river in two of the areas. So it was yesterday and it is today. Definitely Russians have the order to propel forward. Probably they accumulated enough resources for that. And again, we see there are two vectors of attack towards this settlement, so they assault from both of the sides. It's their usual tactics. Also, Russia goes in attacks in the Vuhledar direction, but there they have significant losses. They lose tanks, they lose armored vehicles, but they go and go. It was quite understandable that after Russia took Vuhledar, they will propel forward, and they may do it quite fast because in all of this entire area there are no any settlements, so they may advance towards this road. In the Torres direction, Ukraine tries to counterattack. We have this information from the Miko 73 that Ukraine launched the counter-strike. Our guys use many of the drones, infantry forces. The fight is really heavy in Toretsk. Unfortunately, Russians already moved to the central part of the settlement. In the Pakros direction itself, Ukraine also launched the counter-offensive operation. It tries to hold the Russian forces. For now it works. The Russians can't move further to the Pakros direction, but as you can see, in general, Ukraine doesn't have the robust defense lines in the place. You know, guys, a special military operation was done by Ukrainian GUR forces. They usually pay some of the youngsters in Russia to burn some of the Russian planes. This is the Russian military Tupolev 134 airplane, usually used to deliver VIP persons somewhere. And you know, someone sabotaged the airplane, so this is the entry, this is the nose part of the airplane, this is probably the cockpit over here, and this is the fuselage with the nose gear somewhere in this place. It is not the first time that Russia is losing their aircraft because of the fire. GUR reported that it happened in the airfield Orenburg 2 in Orenburg. To some of the international news, China started its military exercise around Taiwan once again. On that military exercise, they're looking for the possible intervention into the island. Well, I guess it will not happen this time, but they're looking through this scenario right on those exercises. And you know, today the United States of America, the White House published a statement that they're ready to negotiate with Russia, China, North Korea without preconditions to reduce the nuclear threat. We understand that those dictatorship countries raise the stakes and they have nukes, so China looks now at the development of the war in Ukraine. They see that our allies reduce the military support of Ukraine, and they understand that if they play this long game as Putin does in Ukraine, allies may reduce the support of Taiwan as well. And the North Korea, well, it sends its reinforcements to the Russian Federation for now, and they will be used, I'm sure, 100% in Ukrainian war. And you know, North Korea also escalates on Korean Peninsula. Yesterday they alerted their artillery divisions to be fully ready for fire against South Korea. So this year we see the escalation from all of those four of the countries: Iran, Russia, North Korea, and China with its military drills around Taiwan. It's getting really, really hotter, and those dictators are willing to act right now because they see that Western countries are not consolidated, for example, around the Ukrainian topic. They're not helping Ukraine. So why should they help the other countries? And those countries do not have nukes, like, for example, South Korea, and North Korea has nuclear weaponry. It's even crazy, right, that such a country with such a regime has the nukes. It's crazy how the world could allow it to happen. Oh, by the way, Belarus also received the nukes from the Russian Federation. Tactical nukes, but nevertheless, those are the nukes. By the way, Russians and Chinese have the common military drills with the ships in the Pacific Ocean. Well, Russians have the very old ships, but Chinese, they have the modern ones. Donald Trump also warned about the possibility of the New World War, which, as he said, could start in the next 3 up to 4 months. You know, guys, I remember that Xi Jinping visited Moscow, and while he was saying goodbye to Putin, he also mentioned that there will be changes, dramatic changes in the world. Xi said that there will be the changes in the world which the humanity haven't seen for the last 100 years. And then we are together, we are moving those changes. Take care of yourself, dear friend, Xi said to Vladimir Putin. Well, it all means a single thing, that dictators unite against the Western world. And the more clumsy the Western politicians are, the more dictators will escalate. It happened already in our history during the Second World War. Then Allies just allowed Hitler to annex lots of the countries, lots of the new territories. By doing so, you'll never reach the peace. The only way to avoid the big world war is to lock down those regimes under the sanctions and provide all of the necessary support for Ukraine for it to get rid of the Russian occupiers. Without it, appetites of the dictators will rise. They will see no action from the Western countries to protect democracy, basically. And in the future, we will see those kind of the changes because we know that dictators has already united. But I think the good guys always win, as it happened in the Second World War, so it will happen this time as well. The main idea is just to avoid dramatic losses for humanity and for Ukraine for now especially. My friends, and now please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot, and as usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.